So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 52 of the series, and in the last episode we saw the complete collapse of Russia as a state. They could not hang on after World War III. They had been nuked way too many times, and with the collapse of the world economy, so did Russia. And now we have a bunch of new countries scattered across Northern Asia. We also saw the creation of the Organization of Nations. Some of the countries that were involved in World War III formed it, like China and Korea, the Brown Team, Purple Team Norway, but they were mostly unable to get a majority of the other countries in the world to join it because they were simply just skeptical about it. Like, why are we making a whole kind of globalist organization here? Basically, some countries think that this is just a ploy by these strong countries to take over the world. But in this episode, we're going to expand a little bit more upon that. We're also going to take a look at some new alliances, and of course, we will also take a look at some wars. So I hope you guys do enjoy today's video, and if you do, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated as we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. And let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. Alright, so first we're starting off over here in Europe, specifically over here in the Red Irish country, where the Organization of Nations is located. But the first thing that the ON is going to do is that they are going to start a rebuilding campaign for every single country that is in the alliance so they can recover from the nuclear fallout and the nuclear war, which has affected every single country here, especially the ones that have the white dot. They are kind of in like the blast zones. But that also means that countries over here with the black dots, like the green team, they don't get any help from this, which means that they have to rebuild on their own. Now, another point to make here is Russia's claim over the old empire's old capital city. What do we do with that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Instead of it being controlled by Russia, it is now relinquished over to Norway. That is disgusting. But Norway now takes over Russia's claim, and this capital city is still being divided up by the four major powers. Now, another thing that the ON is going to do here is that they're going to figure out the issue with nukes. Now, as we remember from World War III, yes, I do still have the map, nuclear bombs kind of went everywhere following the war, and the ON is making an effort to figure out where they all went. So we now get an updated nuclear map on this map. So each country will be required to declare whether or not they have nuclear bombs, and even though the West African country is not in the ON, they will declare that they have 6 total nuclear bombs. These are the ones that they stole from the old empire, but now they are their very own. But the world will try to make an attempt to take them away, but that doesn't work too well. Now the Brown Team, they have a total of 7. They launched 10 of them into Russia, but they still have 7. We know that China has a grand total of 33, and they have taken back all 10 of the nukes that were in Mexico, which means they no longer have nukes stationed outside of their own territory. Speaking of Mexico, we know that they stole nukes from Texas, meaning that they have a total of 4. And we also know that America has nukes from the old empire, and they had all of the old empire's nukes at the end of the war. As you'll see, they had 11 total bombs, and all 11 of them were in the United States, meaning that along with the nukes that they stole from Texas, America now has 16 total nukes. And believe it or not, those are all the nukes in the world. 5 nuclear powers: America, Mexico, the Brown Team, the West African country, and China. Now the ON is going to make an effort here to take nukes away from countries which they believe shouldn't have them, including the West African country, the American country, and the Mexican country. Now who's going to give up their nukes? Oh, no, nobody's going to give up their nukes. Okay. Well, as it turns out, these guys, they're not in the ON, and therefore they don't want to cooperate with the ON, and they're not going to give up their nukes. So, yeah, what do we do about that? Well, the ON doesn't really have a right to form coalitions against any countries, so they can't do that. And it's not like they can afford a war right now either, because there's no money. So I guess we just let them have their nukes. Please don't give them to anyone else. Please. All right, and then the next step that the ON is going to do is that they're going to do an investigation of World War III, because what exactly happened to bring about all of that nonsense? Who assassinated the leader of the old empire? Who assassinated the leader of Russia? We need to figure this one out. So they are going to send some investigators down into the capital city of the old empire in hopes of uncovering some files that were maybe lost during World War III, and that's exactly what they do. Alright, so they find files concerning Russia's attack on them and the subsequent response that the old empire had. We saw the files that explained why the old empire attacked China preemptively. We saw the ending files from the war when the old empire started to collapse. We saw the files around the assassination of the military leader of the old empire during World War III, and how the civilians came up and overrose him. But then in a bunker somewhere in the capital city, they find some files that are a little bit concerning. These files state that it was the old empire that assassinated the leader of Russia. They were responsible for Russia's leader's assassination. And remember, the assassination of the old empire's new leader happened right as Russia's leader got assassinated. that was messaging. That was a message being sent. He's here, you're gone. That was the old empire's message towards Russia, and that is ultimately what brought about the military tension between the two powers and subsequently World War III. But who shot the leader of the old empire? That is, nobody knows. There's no files there, which means that it wasn't an inside job or anything. The old empire didn't kill its own leader, which means that someone was responsible for it. So now they will go up to Russia and investigate their capital city and look for any files, and they don't find any. They find files concerning the old empire's faulty launch of nukes on Russia and their subsequent response. They find files on the assassination of their leader, on the collapse, everything like that. They find all of the events of the Cold War and World War III, but they don't find out anything about the assassination of the old empire's leader, which means that Russia didn't do it. All right, now we go to China. China cooperates, they show all the files, nothing's there. China didn't do it. It wasn't India, it wasn't Korea. There's some suspicion that it could be the West African country. There's some suspicion that it could have been the Purple country even, but they cooperate and it wasn't them. So who killed the old empire's leader? It wasn't the Irish country, it wasn't Norway. It wasn't any member that is in the ON, except we haven't actually interviewed the Brown team yet. The Brown team is very reluctant to release their files concerning the Cold War, and for a good reason. They're the ones that shot the old empire's leader. Yeah, that's crazy. So Norway and the Purple team are going to be like, what? And immediately there is an argument that breaks out in the discussion room, and let's just say everyone leaves really angry. Specifically, Norway and the Purple team, they are the most angry because the Brown team killed the old empire's leader and led to its collapse. That's a domino effect. The Brown team is responsible for World War III. And when you start kind of putting together the pieces of the puzzle, you start to understand that the Brown team might have been behind a lot more. Like, where did those nukes that were in Iberia go? Oh, they were bussed into the Brown team. The Brown team stole them. But how exactly did the Brown team get a hold of them? Oh, France stole them and gave them to the Brown. Okay, that's something. So this number is actually wrong. This is not 7. This is actually 13 because they stole 6 from the Iberian country. And now there's a lot of suspicion towards the Brown team because what else have you been doing behind the scenes? Ever since World War II, you've been awfully quiet. You haven't done anything really. You invaded some weaker countries here and there, but like, what else have you done? The files keep getting undocumented and the leader of the Brown team resigns. And then they find a really disturbing file that says that the Brown team was the one that funded the terrorist organization in Mexico. Yeah, remember how that was a mystery for a long time? It was the Brown team that did that. Ultimately, that worked in their favor because they were able to collapse the Texan country, which weakened the Cross team in World War III. What else have they done? Well, it turns out they've been mingling in every single international politic that they can. Elections, they've been there. The African Civil War over here, they had a little bit to do with that, although that was a long time coming, but they definitely put a little bit of fuel in that fire. Not completely. I'm not saying they're responsible for it. It would have happened anyway, but the Brown team maybe accelerated it a little bit. Are there any other big mysteries in the Wixo series? Because if there are, you might have to point your finger at the Brown team. Mr. Revenge himself. Alright, so this development is not going to set well for the Organization of Nations. To be more specific, it doesn't set well with the Norwegian country and the Purple country. Both of them leave the organization, and it also kind of inspires some other countries to do so as well. Like the Finnish country, they leave. India, China, and Korea will try to uphold the thing for Asia, but there's just a loss of trust by almost everybody. And the Brown team is, well, they're kind of mad about that, but the countries that just left, they're going to try to convince these other countries to get out while they can, and you might want to form some alliances because the Brown team, I don't know what their motives are. We should probably form a coalition against them. And also the French team, what have they been doing? Why did they give the nukes to the Brown team? Why didn't they just keep them for themselves? A lot of mysteries between these two countries, more so this country right here. This is the big baddie. This one might be his little underling. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. Also, big event. The Purple team is moving their capital city from there all the way over to here where it was a very long time ago. This is a very symbolistic moment for the Purple team. They have reclaimed the Italian peninsula for themselves and, well, they want a little bit more, but they're not going to go after Greece. They're not going to go after the Dark Purple team because if they would, they would probably die. Don't want that to happen. All right, and one more thing for the ON. I promise this is the last thing I'm doing for them. They will attempt to put out a nuclear treaty to have all the nuclear powers in the world sign saying, hey, we're not going to use these things and we're only going to use them as deterrents. And also, in addition to that, we are only allowed to have a maximum of 30 nukes. If you build more than that, you're in trouble. We don't know how you're in trouble. We'll sanction you, I guess, but don't do that. China is like, But since they are one of the founding members and since they believe in the organization, they will listen and they will dismantle 3 of their nuclear bombs, leaving them with the maximum amount allowed, which is 30. Was anyone worried about this guy getting nuclear technology from the old empire when they invaded? Like, I would have been pretty nervous about that, but they didn't find anything there, so we're good, I guess, right? No nukes for the crazy guy, right? Speaking of crazy guys, time to get a little bit of an update on their ongoing endeavors. Alrighty, yep, there's less of that. All the red's gone there, and bad news. But all of the brown is gone from this country completely. They have effectively completed their genocide against the brown population within, and they're not going to stop though, because there's some red population up here, and even though it is the same religion, it's a different branch of that religion, and I don't like that. So, genocide continue. By the way, a majority of this used to be brown. That's how bad the genocide is. They are doing it and they are winning. Religion and ethnicities in this series are kind of like on the same thing, I want to say. I used to call this the religion/ethnic layer. So I don't know if I ever officially called it that, but that's how I always envisioned it. So like, I guess there's that kind of like it's religion, but it's also not religion. It also kind of has the borders and boundaries of ethnicities. Purple's like Western European, and then you have all other colonies are purple as well, which means they not only spread their religion, but also like themselves, like the colonizers. They were of purple descent, which means they were purple religion and purple ethnicity. Alright, anyway, now moving on to some wars, because I know it's been a couple of episodes without a war. My bad. Also, World War III just got fought, so, I mean, the world is in an economical turmoil right now. It's been about 3 years since World War III concluded, which means it's about 2003. That also means that I'm getting close to becoming a real-life person in this world. I would have been born in the American country. Let me know what country you're from in the comments below, now that it's a little bit more divided up. But with the economical turmoil happening and the resetting of the markets in Ireland, not many wars are realistically going to be fought. However, the more powerful countries, they do have the ability to do so, and none other than the brown team is going to make the first move. And who do they move against? Well, that is of course going to be the dark blue country down here, kind of where like Czechia is. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is in real life, because in this series it's gone. It's all gone. Brown team won. This is the first war that has taken place in the last 3 years, and the world is looking at the brown team like, are you freaking insane? You just established the Organization of Nations and you just invaded a country. Doesn't that kind of defeat the whole purpose? Well, not necessarily. The Organization of Nations is just to prevent another world war from happening, not necessarily some regional conflicts. But with this kind of event taking place, there's going to be a few more countries that are going to leave the organization, including the red country right here, and Estonia, and the orange country over here. They're out. Crimea is out. This purple country over here is out. And when you start losing countries that are this far away, it's a little bit concerning. And India, of all countries, is like, yeah, we might have not made this good enough. But we'll see. We'll see if they can fix it. Turns out, though, for this red country here, them leaving the ON was not a good idea because, yeah, probably should not have done that. This is like a former, like, Swedish claim, by the way, I believe. Sweden had like a little bit of land down here, and this is the descendant of that. It just got its independence again, but unfortunately for it, it's, yep, all right. Sorry. So the brown team is very obviously violating any kind of peace agreement, peace promise that they may have made. And the ON is like kind of about to collapse. Not necessarily, but the Polish country is like, oh dang, we need to stay in this maybe so they don't invade us. Might be a good idea. There's a few other countries that are like kind of joining, like this purple country, they join, as well as this English country, they join the ON because they don't want to get invaded by the brown team. So it's sort of like now looking like a if you're not in my organization, you're kind of a target kind of thing. And even though France worked with the brown team a little bit in World War III, they're not a fool. So they're going to join the ON, and they're going to convince their dark purple companions to also join the ON. But now, are there any wars elsewhere? Yes, of course. Down to the Horn of Africa. The gold country is going to declare war on the orange country, saying that they need to be liberated. I think we all know what that really means. All right, yeah, gold team, we're not that dumb. We know what that means. But they will invade into the orange country. And remember, there was a little bit of some fiasco happening here. With the ethnicities, it caused a little bit of a fracture from a former country and the realignment of a few borders. Ultimately, though, the gold team doesn't seem to think that that is too important, as they take the capital of the orange country and are able to capitulate it. However, not before we see the Tanzanian country gear up and go to war with the gold country, taking them on head on and saying that enough is enough. We will not allow you to continue to slaughter our own people, and it's time to throw hands. Now the UN sees this, and the UN is like, hey, these are two pretty strong countries, respectively in the region at least. They're fighting against each other. Surely this wouldn't lead to a world war, right? Maybe we should do something anyway, right? So the brown team and its friends in the UN, including India, are going to come down here and they're going to be like, yo, stop fighting. Guys, stop fighting. Please stop fighting. Why are you fighting? Stop fighting. Guys, please. That's enough. All right, Tanzania, you win. Oh, no. Okay, gold team, you're done. That's all. And yeah, the UN is not working. On the realistic standpoint, though, the Tanzanian country is getting folded by the gold team. Yeah, don't mess with this guy. He's old. He's almost dead, probably, the leader, that is the military guy. But he still has a conquest in mind. And his son? Oh, wait till you meet his son. The successor to him once he croaks. Even better military mind. That's a little bit scary. So Tanzania is going to be like, yo, India, can you help us out here? And India, not wanting to even think about starting another world war that could go nuclear because, you know, it only took one country to do a little bit of a sneaky assassination to start the nuclear war that killed millions. India's like, hell no. And Tanzania is going to call upon other friends in Africa, like the Madagascar country and this pink country, and like, yo, can you please help us out against the gold team? We're getting whipped. Please help us out against the gold team. We're getting beat pretty bad. Nobody wants to help because nobody wants to go to war because no one can afford to go to war. And the gold team is making astonishing progress into the Tanzanian country until eventually they stop and they offer peace to the Tanzanians. Turns out the gold team ran out of money. Yeah, I told you everyone is broke. They don't get to bypass the broken economy. They're broke. The gold team can't go on anymore and they're offering peace to the Tanzanian team as long as they give them a little bit of land. The Tanzanian country is terrified of this, so what they're going to do is they're going to evacuate as many people out of this area as possible in hopes of allowing them to survive, because we all know what the gold team's going to do here. We all know what they're going to do. So over here they will completely annex this country, and down over here we will go to the province map and they will be getting all of this land. Not a whole lot, but enough for their spoils for more, and Tanzania will be allowed to live, although they're kind of cut off circulation wise around this whole Lake Victoria. Not that big of a deal though. There are bigger issues, and of course those issues are like well, you can see what those issues are. Not good. Anyway, we now head on over to Central Africa, where we see a unionization take place between the blue and the pink countries. Now, of course, something to remember here, the blue country is a part of the Triangle Alliance, which means that this union will have to join that alliance as well. The pink team isn't opposed to it because right now, economical alliances are probably a little bit useful. Maybe not fully useful, but probably a little bit. Like, at least you can work through the problems together, I guess. Or trade is cheaper. I'm not sure. But these two will be unionizing into one, placing their new capital city relatively close to what would be the center of the two countries. And together, their unionized country looks like this. So, like I said, still members of the Triangle Economical Alliance. And we might even see some more unionization take place as the world heads into probably the climax of the economical disparity. Like, it's at its very worst right now, but from here, it's only going to get better. More specifically, though, in Arabia and in Russia, a lot of these guys are struggling immensely. And there isn't really one like solid economical alliance that would fix the economies of every single country. There are, of course, a lot of regional ones. Like in West Africa, you have the Star Alliance. South Africa, this Triangle one. In North America, you have the Trapezoid. India has its own little beneficial alliance. But nobody really wants to join any kind of alliances right now because they are scarred from World War III. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. Even the countries that were just released, like, they don't trust each other, even though they were a part of the same country, which was the old empire. They don't trust each other. So yeah, it's like kind of just sucky right now. Not a whole lot to do. Oh, and by the way, in Central Asia, you know how I said Russia was keeping these three together? Yeah, that's true. The pink team leaves at their disagreement, and then the brown team leaves after a disagreement, leaving only the green team, who, of course, you can't have an alliance with yourself unless you're a loser. So there goes the cross team, no longer a thing anymore. So I guess by that logic, you could say the cross team was the one that lost World War III, sort of. Yeah, I'm not too sure. But what the hatred brewing over here, it leads to annexation. Yeah, it would be very hard for you to believe that these two fought on the same side in World War III under the same alliance. But okay, there that goes. And maybe like you could agree with the green team. You know, they said they invaded the brown team because they were about to collapse. Their economy was ruined. And that was sort of true. But they also didn't really have consent to do that. So in a way, they got the head start in taking the land before anyone else got it. But at the same time, they were armed going in there. So like, I guess your point of view, whatever you want it to be. Anyway, that is actually going to do it for today's episode. A little bit of a shorter one, I do believe. Not 100% sure. And yeah, hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Make sure to leave all of your suggestions for this series in the comments below. That is what fueled the series, especially at times like this when there aren't any major world events happening, no major world player. Really, I mean, anything could happen from here. So leave all of your suggestions in the comments below so I know exactly what to do. And I will see you all in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes America and Canada and UK, Freezioid, Godzilla Bro, Zaylance, Unknown TD, Georgie Badev, Servinator, Johnny XX7, King Cheese, GD Cilia, Pablo Sigma Cat, Death Strider X, Hammer Toad 45, Connor the Gamer, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.